Welcome back to Teenager Tuesday, people. I wish we had a theme song like Teenager Tuesday. That would be cool. Maybe that's it from now on. But we are here. My name is Elijah Keck. I'm the student pastor at the McKinney campus, and we're here with our special guest, the lead pastor of Hope Fellowship, John McKinzie. John, how you doing?
I'm doing great, man. Good to be here.
He's happy to be here. And guys, if you missed last week, stop what you're doing, unless you're driving. Don't stop right now. But go back and listen to week 1 of politics. John kind of laid out his thoughts on, what Christians and how Christians should interact with politics. And I think it's an amazing foundation for what we're going into today. So if you haven't listened to that, please go back, listen to that. It's an awesome thing. And today we're going to be talking a little bit about how we should interact with our kids and politics, and whether that's teaching, whether that's influencing, what that looks like. And John has 4 kids. He has a lot of great son-in-laws that he influences all the time.
2 great son-in-laws. Just kidding. I have 3 great son-in-laws.
But he has a lot of experience with this, and being a Christian and having politics a part of his life. But I think, like last week, he set a great foundation in this. So we'd love to know your thoughts on how should parents see the importance of politics in their students, or how should they interact with politics and their students?
Okay, well, I think first of all, when I think of any kind of parental advice, I think it's important to know that I did not, or Melissa and I didn't always get this right. Okay, so whatever topic is, whether it's devotions or curfews or discipline or whatever, anytime I talk to parents or marriage things or whatever, man, I just want to be careful to say that I don't have it all together and I've not done this always the correct way. But I do think there's a perspective that maybe I have that could help, at least and especially in this season of politics. Because I'll be honest, in my lifetime, I've never seen it this divided. I've never seen, and I know in the 60s there were some problems and there were some challenges, of course. But in my lifetime, and I was born in the 60s, but I don't remember all that stuff. In my lifetime, I don't know that I've ever seen the division and the emotion that has been fanned into flame in our country than I have right now. So I think that you guys are even tackling this is commendable, that trying to help parents navigate this, because many of us for the last 25 or 30 years, we haven't really, it's not been that big of a deal. Of course, there's Democrats and Republicans, and occasionally there's an independent thing going on, but yeah, there's a certain, kind of dividing line between the two, whether it's financial or moral things, but by and large, it's not been, like crazy divided. It's just like, okay, sometimes we'll have a Republican, sometimes we'll have a Democrat, but now the division and the emotion and the anger that is involved is at an all-time high. I've just never seen it like this. And one of the things that I would say that has exasperated us is because in the 60s or 70s or 80s, we didn't have the social media. We didn't have the news networks that we have now, and the online and the internet. So it's in our face 100% of the time. Anytime we turn on something, we can figure out on our phones or on the internet or on TV. We can go to probably 50 different news kinds of outlets. That didn't exist before. So anyway, my point is, to this generation, as parents navigate these things, some of the things that I've thought about is, I think going back to the question, should you help your kids see the importance of politics? Yes. I think it's a no-brainer. We live in a country where we're free. We live in the country where we have rights, where we have responsibilities. So I think, of course, it is incumbent upon us as parents to talk and have conversations around the dinner table or whatever about politics. Now, I would go back to week 1 and just say, again, this is a Jesus-centered approach or a biblical worldview to politics, rather than this is the way Grandpa did it and this is the way we do it, and so you got to vote the way. Well, let me just tell you that stuff is over. That stuff does not work. You don't tell your kids how to vote. You don't tell your kids this is what we do as a family, and so you just no, they don't. They're not going to buy into that. So I think having, the first responsibility that we have, and this is biblical, is prayer. That we are to pray for our leaders. That's why right now in our church, every month we are praying for 4 or 5 different states. We are praying for our president, for the vice president, for the Congress, Senate, and House. We are praying for our states and their leaders and our city. And then we're praying for revival for Christians everywhere. There's a reason for that, because I believe that's the best or the most important thing that we can do for our city. Paul says it, pray for, respect your leaders. That's not always easy. But I think when we set a tone in the house or in the home with our kids where we overly criticize or are disrespectful to our leaders, whether that be police officers, whether that be mayors, whether that be governors or the president. And I really do mean this. And I'm not saying I've gotten this perfect. I'm not saying I haven't made fun of certain things. But I think there is a general tone in our country where it's okay to be unkind, and it's okay to be disrespectful, and it's okay to be hateful. Guys, that is not the Jesus-centered way. You know what I'm saying? That's just far. So prayer, voting, I think instilling within our kids, I will never forget each one of our kids, the year that they were able to vote. The year that they were able to vote for an election of some sort, mostly the presidentials are the ones that I remember. I don't think there's ever been a vote in a national election or in an important state that I have not voted, and I teach that we trained our kids, hey, you vote. And I'm not saying they all do that. I have no idea. They're out of the house now. But leading the way in the conversation tone at home, okay, leading that way, prayerful, respectful, kind, but having the conversations. I think that leads us to maybe another question, which I think is, what role should politics play in our home? Yeah. Right? So I think having the conversations, having prayer together for our leaders and for our country or for a certain election, asking for wisdom, not just saying, in our prayers, because there's a way we can direct our prayers, say, Lord, we just pray for our candidate. We pray for him to win. Well, that's a little, you can do that. But I think educating our kids on why it's so important that we're praying, why it's so important that we are voting, and why it's so important if you feel so led to be involved. Because many of our parents, some of you are you're involved in the PTA at school, or maybe the school board, or maybe even the city council or whatever in the city, or some kind of public service. Man, I think those are good things, and I think there is a role that politics plays. But again, I go back to biblical worldview, that it's all based out of Jesus and a heart to serve and a heart to have the bigger mission in mind, as opposed to our Republican or Democrat agenda. It's the mission of Jesus, a biblical worldview, and education with our kids, and having open conversations.
I think you hit it on the head with, my dad. To give an example, my dad's very political. He's a pastor, and my only thoughts of him politically is him yelling at the TV about something, something that CNN said or whatever, and for me, that pushed me more away from politics, because it's like, I don't want my heart to be controlled by something that to me doesn't look like it matters that much. And I think what you said, explaining why you vote, is this huge thing. Explaining that, man, we want these policies, we want these things, not just the person. It's not just person versus person. We want these things because we know that these policies could help in these different areas, wherever that is. But explaining those things, and not just being like, well, we just dislike them. We like him because of these policies or because of these things. And explaining that can really help your student understand politics, and not just go, well, I don't like that guy because he's Democrat, or I don't like him because he's Republican. And then the future of politics is just going to be be a hate, who's going to be hated the most.
And I wish I'd have done a better job at that, honestly, with my kids. I don't think we had conversations around it, but it wasn't, because I'm not really a political driven guy. So, I think that it plays into our personalities a little bit, but I wish that I would have been more intentional about the education side of it as to, hey, this is why Dad votes the way or thinks the way that he thinks. I don't know that I did that well. And I wish I could go back and do that. So I think it's important for parents, especially in this season, because it's so emotional and so politically motivated. We're all on high, even about masks and about, COVID stuff and about city stuff and about national stuff and about airplanes.
Everything
Everything is political. So anyway, I think that's an important thing.
All right. Last question we want to get to is, and we had a few parents ask this, how do you handle a child who doesn't have the same values or beliefs that you do, maybe politically or just values in general as a person?
Well, I think that, it goes back to the fruit of the Spirit. And when I have any friends or family members, my own kids for that matter, that disagree with maybe where I'm at, I have to trust that because my kids are out of the house now. So I think there's a little bit of difference. If they're in the house, I think there's good conversations that can be had over the dinner table, respectful ones, kind ones. I think if parents don't understand that if you're going to get angry at your kids for the way they're thinking, because let me tell you, they spend more time at school than they do with you, or more time with their friends, or more time in college than they do with you. So they are going to be influenced, and it could be away from where you think they should be, right? Politically, I'm speaking of. So when you attack them and when you come against them and say, that is not correct, that is not the way to vote, and I cannot believe I raised you this way, well, you have just pushed them even further. Because the rhetoric, because you have fallen into the trap of the world. And that's what we do on television. That's what even political candidates do. Scream at one another and call each other names, and it's just ridiculous. So I think that when you have a person, or a kid in your student, or even an adult student or child in your family that disagrees with you, love, respect, healthy conversations, agree to disagree. Your arguing or name calling is not going to change their mind. Listen, it's like Jesus. If I have a kid that's not serving the Lord, the last thing in the world I need to do is shove the Lord down their throat. You know what I'm saying? Because I have to be led by the Spirit to have those kind of conversations and pray for them. That's another thing that I think is really important. Not only love, respect, and healthy conversations, but prayer. And again, you probably, as a parent, I'm talking to the parents now, and I know we're getting long here, but you as a parent probably think differently, a little bit differently than your parents thought. And my kids think a little bit differently than I think. It's okay. Those things evolve, but I think if we don't have any conversations that are healthy, and it's always combative, and it's always you're wrong, and you're not listening, man, I think we're heading in the wrong direction. So pray for them, have healthy conversations, respect, listen.
That's good. Yeah, I think all this was amazing. Thank you so much, John, for speaking into the parents of our students and future students. And I hope we all took a lot away from that. I did, for sure, of what that looks like to be a Christian in politics. And I love that biblical worldview. It's like it all comes back to Jesus for us. That's the center of everything. It's not just a piece of the pie. Jesus is the center. It touches every part of our life, and that includes politics. And it's the starting place for everything. And so thank you, John, for speaking to us. And parents, you guys can do this. You're not alone. God is with you, and so are we. We'll catch you next time.